All right, today we're going to dive into a story that has everything. We're talking futuristic tech, massive hype, and a truly spectacular collapse. This is the story of the Lightchain II token. It was a project that promised to literally change the world, but, well, it ended up vaporizing millions of dollars in just a few hours.
So, this number. This is really what the whole story boils down to. An 88% drop from its listing price. I mean, that's a near total wipeout for pretty much anyone who bought in on launch day.
And this is the number that makes it all so staggering. You see, before that 88% crash, retail investors had poured over $21 million into this thing during its pre-sale. They bought the dream, but what they were left with was a cold, hard reality.
So, that's the big question here, isn't it? How on earth does this happen? How does a project with $21 million in backing and this, revolutionary idea just collapse so spectacularly? To get to the bottom of it, we have to start with the dream they were selling.
You see, to really get why it crashed so hard, we first have to understand the hype. Lightchain AI wasn't just another crypto project. No. It was selling a vision of the future, a really powerful mix of the two biggest buzzwords in tech, AI and blockchain. At the heart of their whole pitch was this really slick idea, proof of intelligence. So instead of computers solving, these kind of pointless puzzles like in Bitcoin mining, the network would be secured by nodes doing useful AI tasks. It was a brilliant idea on paper, right? A way to build a global, decentralized supercomputer. And the engine driving all of this was what they called the AI VM. The idea was that this would let developers run AI models right on the blockchain. It would create a decentralized AI system, completely free from the control of big tech giants like Amazon or Google. The pitch was so powerful. Let's democratize AI for everybody.
And look, this quote from their own white paper, it just perfectly sums up the story they were selling. It talks about a shared ecosystem, participation, a new frontier for tech. It's really easy to see why investors were getting so excited.
And that excitement? Well, it turned into cold, hard cash. Over a 15-stage presale, more than $21 million just flowed right into the project. Thousands of people bought in, totally convinced they were getting in on the ground floor of the next big thing.
But while this amazing dream was being sold to the public, a very different reality was taking shape behind the curtain. The promises were huge, but the execution, well, it was just riddled with red flags for anyone who was willing to look a little closer. Now, this is where things start to get interesting. Look at this timeline. It tells a story. The first launch date in July 2025 never happened. Then they pushed the big mainnet launch all the way to the second half of 2026. This pattern of delay after delay is just a classic warning sign in the crypto world. And it wasn't just the delays. Oh no, the red flags were everywhere if you just scratched the surface. The team was completely anonymous. Their GitHub page had 0 public members. The project was leaning super heavily on paid articles to build hype instead of, organic interest. And for a project making these huge tech claims, there was no open source code for anyone to review. The tech was basically a black box.
So just remember that big promise, okay? This revolutionary engine that was going to free AI from the grip of big tech. It was the entire foundation of the project's value.
Well, here's the kicker. When the token finally launched, that core technology, the mainnet, the AI VM, the entire proof of intelligence system, it wasn't even operational. It didn't exist yet. Just let that sink in for a second. People had invested $21 million in a token for a network that wasn't actually real.
And that brings us to the big day, January 27th, 2026, launch day. This is the moment where the hype train slammed headfirst into a brick wall of reality and everything just fell apart.
Okay, so here's how things were set up for the launch. The project team created what's called a liquidity pool on the decentralized exchange Uniswap. They put in about $1 million worth of Ethereum and the same value in their new LCAI tokens. This is what allows people to actually start buying and selling. But, and this is absolutely critical, there was a huge flaw in the plan. All those pre-sale investors, they got all of their tokens at once, with no rules to stop them from selling immediately. And that is exactly what they did. Within 2 hours, huge sell orders flooded the market, sucking over $700,000 out of that initial pool. It was a classic bank run. And this chart, wow, it just perfectly shows you the sheer scale of the financial wipeout. That bar on the left, that was the project's theoretical value at launch, $74 million. The bar on the right, that's what's left today, under 9 million. Just a catastrophic destruction of value for anyone who held on.
So what can we learn from all this? The story of Lightchain AI is for sure a cautionary tale, but it's also a really powerful lesson in how to spot the traps that are hidden all over these volatile crypto markets. Let's break down the key takeaways.
First off, let's talk about a super common pattern you see in these situations. It's called a dead cat bounce. So after a huge crash, you'll often see this little, hopeful-looking recovery. But this is usually a trap. It's not a real trend reversal. It's just a temporary blip before the price continues to fall off a cliff.
And the good news is you can actually spot these fake rallies if you know what you're looking for. There are 4 key signs. First, look at the trading volume. If the price is going up, but fewer and fewer people are actually trading, that's a huge red flag. Second, notice if the rally just stalls out at key technical points on the chart. Third, watch for what are called bearish rejection candles. These are specific chart patterns that literally show you sellers are jumping back in and taking control. And finally, check the momentum with an indicator like the RSI. If it's weak, it tells you the rally is hollow and probably going to fail.
Look, at the end of the day, the Lightchain AI story is just a textbook case of what happens when due diligence goes out the window. This checklist right here covers the absolute basics that were tragically missed. Is the team real? Can the tech be verified? Are the partnerships legit? In a market driven by that fear of missing out, just asking these simple questions is so crucial. It leaves us with one final, really important thought. In that frantic search for the next big thing, what crucial details are we choosing to ignore?